So we're live. This is a really great episode of the Oil and Gas Pitch podcast. The show I have for you today could very well end up resonating with you in several ways. We're going to get into two major components of Rare Petro and how they're improving, innovating, and modernizing the way their clients do business. I'm here with Anthony McDaniels. Anthony, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show, Warren.
So you actually hiked down from Denver today.
I did, yeah.
One of the things that the more I did my research, I looked into Rare Petro and actually got a chance to get some feedback from the industry. You guys are kind of known to be like the double barrel shotgun. This is there's like two major things that you guys do. One is on the consulting side. The other is in technology. Are we going to be able to get into all of that today? Is it really possible for us to take a deeper dive, not just into the consulting, but really how you guys are helping companies update and modernize the way they use technology?
Oh, I think we can hit the broad strokes, no problem.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can go into, but at the end of the day, we're pretty much here for a reason. And the reason is that we worked in the industry and we saw certain things that weren't being done. We said, well, maybe we can help do some things in a certain way, and maybe there'll be a need for that, right?
Yeah, and another thing is, and I know we're about to get it started, but you guys have been doing this since 2015.
That's right.
Would you say, like, just from your experience of what's going on right now, you know, we're in the middle of a downturn, you see a lot of companies trying to innovate and figure things out. In a way, isn't what we're about to get into something that really, for any company, whether it's in the service side or production, your company really comes in and helps them be more productive and push forward to more of the cutting edge solutions?
Yeah, that's pretty much right on. I mean, basically, we are people that worked in the industry for years or decades in our group, and also people that are onshore U.S. coders and developers. And so when you bring all that stuff together, what you get is a far deeper understanding of what do people need, right? Mm-hmm. What problems do they have, and how most effectively address that? It might be nothing more than a short phone call. Hey, look at this, call this guy. To have a full staff of coders, to have a full staff of 10, 20-year experienced production operations people, the budget might not be there for that, right? To have all the things that you want, you may not have your budget, but there are still some of those things you need. And there's a way to do this without hiring full time. Mm-hmm. And that's where our firm comes in.
Yeah, when we were, we get emails that come in and out. I mean, when it comes to really choosing a guest that can make it to the show, it really takes experience and for us to be able to kind of have proof in the pudding, if you will. And one of the things that really impressed me about your company, and especially you as the principal and CEO, this leadership team that you have has 100 years collective experience. It means that it's not necessarily that you're dealing with a technology company. You're actually dealing with 100 years of actual industry experience across the board.
Yes, that is correct. When you bring that much experience in, you have it from large producers, you have it from medium and small producers, you have it from the service companies, you have a good understanding, and you have it in multiple bases, right? Mm-hmm. You have a very good understanding of the most significant pain points that trip people up. Like, they don't even know where to get started. They want to optimize how they're lifting their wells, but they don't even know the broad strokes of where's the best lift to design from. They're stuck calling people that are trying to sell them these pumps. Well, then you ask yourself, is that really what I need, or is that just because I called the guy that sells it?
Yeah.
Right? We're more the people that used to work for you, and now we work as a group helping multiple outfits.
Mm-hmm. Working alongside the client.
That's right.
And not giving them all that weight of payroll and what's not.
Yep.
So, all right, well, let's kick it off. I'm excited about this. I know that there's quite a bit of ground to cover. Where do you want to start?
I guess I'll jump into this little slide deck here we have.
All right.
So Rare Petro is two entities, actually, as you teed up. It is an engineering firm, and it is a tech company, and we are based in Golden, Colorado, where most of us went to school. A lot of us went to the Colorado School of Mines. So we're pretty deep in that, and it's a great place to work from. And so that's where we are. I figure I'd start with who are we, right? That's a good place to start. We were founded 5.5 years ago to provide engineering, consulting, and technology solutions. We were essentially started in a bust. I mean, the last oil price war with the Middle East, I got my severance, and I decided, well, let's just try and do some side consulting here and this. And now, 5.5 years later, we have multiple oil company clients, public, private. We have service company clients. We have done many projects, and we've worked anywhere from here, look at this for an hour or two, to, hey, I need you guys to look at this every week, 5 to 10 hours. Hey, I need you guys to basically be my on-call production team, or I need you to help me figure out what technology to use, right? So that's kind of who we are, and we multidiscipline here. It's engineering, geology, programming, coding, data entry, and even field personnel. What people need is they almost need like an a la carte. I need help. I need production help here, or I need some data entry help here, or I need to understand what technology options are out there. What do I use? I have no idea where to even start. Sometimes people just need to be able to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I heard you guys help various people like this. What have a conversation with us. Maybe there's something that we can help steer you in a direction, right? That's all we're trying to just generate value, and by saying we have a huge network, we have customers already, we have multiple things we're doing, and we see the need that people need help, but going through the conventional avenues, the headhunters, when you don't have a G&A budget, this doesn't work.
Yeah,
right?
I was joking with one of my friends. I said, when I meet Anthony, it's almost like I'm meeting the mixed martial artist of consulting. I mean, you guys are you have tools for whether it's ground game, at the edge, even from a technology standpoint with data consulting.
Yep.
I always wonder, does that work against you? Does it help you? Have you found there's challenges in the fact that you guys do so much? It's almost unbelievable.
What I found working in the industry is that you might have some guru, right? This guy is just really, really deep on this one thing. Or you'll have a software that is really, really deep at this one thing. And you know what you'll find out more times than not, and people don't like to admit this, but it's true. You use 10%, right? You have this software that may cost you $100,000 a year. It takes 2 weeks to train somebody on it, and most of the people don't use but 10% of what it can do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and the same thing applies with technical expertise, a lot of people get bound up in the political dynamic of being an employee, of having a boss to try and appease. We can just come in and say, look, the way we look at it is these lift systems might be better. These ones might be worse. If you want us to dive into the details, there's always a network of people that we can either pull in somebody else. It's really market driven. If somebody comes to us and says, hey, can you just look at this real quick? We can look at it real quick. If somebody says, we need you to really do a deep dive, then we figure out how to do a deep dive. We have a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of experience that either by force or by choice, or some mixture of both, have come to the conclusion that maybe with my, decades of experience as a consultant, whoever that person is, maybe I'm better off finding an independent gig here, an independent gig there, right? And you can bring to bear immense amount of depth when needed, where appropriate. But most of the time, people just need an idea of what direction to even start in. I mean, people are so worried about, I need somebody with 40 years of experience that did every single thing that I'm looking for. Those people are out there. But to help steer you in the direction of how to engage them, how to get them to help you, those people can be through us.
Yeah.
But at least we can get on and say, look, this is what we see that you need. This is your low-hanging fruit. So before you go out there and hire somebody full-time, whether they're an employee or a contractor that you have full-time and you're paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, why don't you have a conversation with somebody who has an idea of the kinds of experience that's out there, what people are willing to work for? That's the other thing. Some people may not need high pay as much as you think because they considered their home and they can do it, and we can funnel a lot of the work as far as organizing all the details, right? And having things double-checked in spreadsheets and whatnot from our junior associates. So essentially what you have is you have more of a streamlined, I need help, all right? Well, we might be able to help direct you into how you get that help, who you're getting it from, why you need it, what you need to do first, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, somebody will say, we need to do a full field redevelopment and we need to maximize our lift systems. And Okay, well, maybe just a survey of your field would work great. Send us a spreadsheet with all of your wells. We look at them and say, these are your low-hanging fruit. We can give you some benefit without diving deep, just by giving a couple of suggestions. There's your fluid level here. Here's your pump off there, whatever. These things don't have to require bringing on a six-figure salaried and benefit person or an even more expensive independent contractor that, if you want them full-time, is going to cost you through the nose, but maybe you don't want them full-time. Mm-hmm. So if you don't want them full-time and another project hits their plate, now you're in a bind. That's where we come in. We have more than one person working on things, but we're not a law firm. Mm-hmm. We're professional services for oil and gas in that regard, in that we will look at what you have.
On one hand, anytime you have a sit-down meeting, here you are, the CFO or the founder of an oil and gas business, or you're a service provider, the first thing that happens is whoever you're sitting across from that's trying to sell you a solution has some kind of tie to that solution.
That's right.
So what you end up with is a gazillion capabilities, but really what you're talking about is, why not, before you purchase the gazillion capabilities, why don't you tactically know what you need?
Yep.
Why, if only 15% of that product offering is really necessary, before you make the mistake, before you go down the aisle with this vendor, why not have someone like you come down, have your basically round table, what really is needed, what really is going to make them more effective, and maybe dodge a few bullets.
That's right. You hit the nail on the head. You know, and that kind of dives into, you know, why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. Why do we do it? Because there's a need out there, especially now with the capital is dried up, right? Mm-hmm. So you have all these wells online and you have to keep them running. You want to keep them efficient, right? Okay, you need production expertise to maximize your cash flows, right? And your maintenance costs, you got to keep them under control, okay? You need support on what technology even exists that's out there in the market, can be brought to bear in your situation and give you some fruit before you go down this 12-month odyssey of 5-6 different meetings, and now you're looking at a tens of thousands of dollars bill from some software development firm. Or you have to hire a bunch of people, bring them into your company, and if somebody pays them 10 grand a year more, then you lose them, and now you're back to square one, right? So the need for design, implementation, support, advice, you know, that comes, we were in your shoes, right? Whether you work at a production company, oil and gas production, or you work in a service company that's trying to get tools or services, chemicals, hardware, whatever it is, to these oil and gas companies. The people in Rare Petro, we've worked for all of you, essentially, right? So we already have a very good understanding of what your needs are, right? At least fundamentally.
Well, let me stop you there, because I want to ask you something, which is regarding this leadership team. You know, I just kind of have a very 80-foot view of the fact that these are guys and gals that have actually been inside the oil and gas industry. They've played many roles. Do you mind kind of debriefing us on who this team is and why they're so unique to your offering? And
yes. Oh, I'd love to dive into it. So, I mean, I was the founder, and it was me in my basement. Now we're at about 30 associates. We have people that range from just finishing up college to 40, 50 years of experience in our firm. We have people that range from, we have people that do our own podcast, for example. We have people that do our own media stuff. We do our own research on what's going on in oil markets, to people that have been, executives for service companies and oil companies and are on an advisory board with over 40 years, and PhD. We have people that have worked in multiple basins that know thousands and thousands of contacts and dozens of different companies. We bring basically this kaleidoscope, if you will, of variant experience and variant exposure. And for anybody out there that, we hear this a lot, and you touched onto it, gosh, it seems like you guys are trying to do a lot. We're not trying to do a lot. We are doing all of this stuff, right? We have every single bullet I have on what we do, we are doing it, right? We have customers that are engaging with us from anywhere from, look at this a couple hours a week, I need a junior guy, to I need somebody in the field watching the work over, to I need a 30, 40-year experienced person, I need them to do a deep dive on this thing, and it's going to be a big project. We need to turn it around in 3 months. We have that whole thing.
Okay, so with that, I want to ask you, help me connect the dots on this phrase that I've heard some of your clients use, which is this double barrel shotgun kind of analogy. What is it about? Where does the consultancy and the technology, which are two totally different silos of what you do, how are they different? Why are they not the same?
That's a very good question. So essentially, in consulting, you were just there to provide advice. That's it, right? Or this is what we think would work for you. This is a very different business model, if you will. You are there to be pretty much just an advisor, just the way you might have an accountant or an attorney be an advisor to you in your personal life. You are there to be a support. As what does this make sense? Does that make sense? On the tech side, what we wanted to do is we wanted to stay away from these high cost models where, hey, you got to pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop something. We would rather do this extremely low cost. So as a result, we try to maintain and own our platforms and then customize those. And so what ends up happening in that scenario is this is an entirely different business model. This is one where instead of you doing basically pay for service and suggestions, you end up, hey, I want to use your services as a tech company or your software as a service or whatever platform you've got. And we have customers in that realm as well. So it makes sense from a business strategy standpoint to have consulting company, tech company. It also makes sense to our customers because a lot of times somebody thinks that they need a solution and maybe it's tech. Well, maybe what they actually need is some advice from a production engineer as a consultant first before they go out and they put a bunch of telemetry out on their wells. Because, hey, guys, do you know that there's a bunch of solutions out there? So in a consulting realm, we might be able to point you towards, you don't need to use our stuff and you don't need to use that stuff, but there's stuff over here that we are aware of and it works just as well. Okay? And then in the tech realm, if you really want something that's customized for you that we can bring and put together, then that's where that arrangement comes from.
What I like what you're saying is you're getting access to years and years of other oil and gas companies making mistakes, and you're actually getting to leverage the fact that you're going to tell these companies, you can tell a client, here's 15 things you don't want to do, or here is the great marketing machine of a certain vendor that we see time and time again. People purchase it, but it's not the most efficient, it's not the most effective. So when it comes to the technology part, what are I would imagine there's a lot of mistakes people might make if they're trying to bite off something that they're not really sure of. There's probably a lot of I guess collateral that people invest in that sometimes isn't even the right investment at all.
That's correct. It happens all the time. They'll do one of two extremes. These companies will say, well, we're going to make our solution entirely on our own. Okay, then go hire the coders because you're going to need to maintain these things, these applications, and these cloud-based solutions. You're going to have to maintain them. And that's fine. But you got to understand what the cost and the timeline is on that. Most people who've never done this, they have no idea. We at least have some sense of it because guess what? We're in the oil and gas industry and we do develop these solutions. So at a minimum, if you think that we could help steer you in a direction, okay, talk to us and we can tell you it's going to take this much firepower for you to do this. You can do it on your own. That's totally fine. And then the other extreme is they don't want to do anything. They just want to bury their head in the sand and try and do what they've done for the last 30 years. Well, guess what? That ain't going to work.
Okay, so let's talk regulatory rigmarole, right? I mean, the regulations kind of drive the need sometimes for digitizing, maybe. Sometimes it's mitigating paperwork. How are you able to come in and really show someone how to open that can of worms, if you will, and avoid some of this?
Yeah. So basically, a lot of people do pen and paper out there in the field, clipboard still. And there's ever increasing different situations of regulatory audits. You know, maybe it's state OSHA, maybe it's federal, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But at the end of the day, a lot of the software providers out there, either all they do is safety forms, but they do it for multiple industries, or it's some Silicon Valley type company that they can come in and promise you the stars and the moon, but they don't fundamentally understand what you do and why you do it. right? That you can tell them I need a safety form filled out and I would like it digitized so that I can find it if I ever get audited. But they don't really understand that there's different things that you have to fill out, you have to figure out, you have to understand the industry to really understand how to present the solution for the industry, right? So that it's essentially just always the same thing. Why we do what we do is that there's this gap. There's a lot of tech companies and they can do a lot. And then there's a lot of oil companies and they can do a lot. But where do the two meet, right? You almost need a liaison of sorts to figure out how all these things tie together, And so, we even find it in some of our service company clients. One of the things we found on tech is helping them with modern marketing concepts. Instead of handing a brochure out, they can have an application on their phone, and that kind of goes into, I think we kind of covered, how we do what we do.
Can you explain then what your model is? So let's assume you meet with a client and there's several different things that they need assistance with. How is your team, behind closed doors? How are you unbundling that and making your recommendations? How does that work?
Well, we actually try and do a lot of it with just a call with the customer or prospective customer. Okay, you reached out to us, you heard about us somehow, or you're curious in something that we do. Let's have a conversation, right? You might find out that somebody says, man, I have this huge problem. I need all these wells. I don't have any surveillance on any of them. I want to know what tech solutions you can bring to bear. I'm basically talking about examples that have happened, okay? And so they defect towards, and it's natural. What kind of surveillance technologies are you aware of? Or what can you guys build for an application? And we say, okay, well, hold on a second. Let's unbundle this a little bit. We don't need to get into anything crazy. It can be as light as an NDA. Just send us some information, whatever you want. Send us some information and let's look at what you have. We might look at that and say, extra surveillance and other technology solutions are definitely going to benefit you. But the first thing that will help you a lot is to just fix these 10 wells out of the list of 50 you sent us. And fixing them may not, those 10 that we recommend to fix, it might only be no rig required. It might just be, hey, check this out, do this like this, do this test, do that test. It may cost a day and a couple $100, and people are just so flat out work, they have no idea. So the way we unbundle it is basically just having a conversation. What do you need and why do you need it? Because a lot of people, they get sold things. I'd rather just have a conversation.
Sure.
And say, well, what do you need? And why do you think you need it? Maybe we can help you figure out where the first low-hanging fruit can be picked.
The easiest obstacle to overcome.
Yep.
And it almost sounds too like what you're saying is that somebody thinks they have a bigger problem almost than what they do, that they could actually find out, hey, this isn't a 50 well problem, this is a 10 well issue. And they can make those adjustments and save a little bit of money just by really knowing where they need to make the adjustments.
Yep. Or at least being given some sense of direction of where to look, So, we've got the who we are, why we do what we do, how we do it, what we do. We talked about that, production engineering, regulatory compliance, mobile cloud solutions, advisory and research. Again, these are all things we are doing for various customers in various basins, even in another country. So these are all things that we actively are helping people with, right? And so we really come into, again, the double barrel shotgun here. So we have our engineering firm. We do these petroleum consulting activities, this oil and gas assistance, and advisory and research. I need a bunch of wellbore diagrams done up. I can't have them in the physical well file. I got to have them in some sort of software. I got to have them digitized because I got to file this for the state. Okay, we do that. You know what? I got to have somebody give me an idea of how to better pump these wells in this field or that field. These guys are telling me this should work, that should work, but I still hit roadblocks. Well, okay, let's look at it from a perspective that we're not trying to sell you the next pump. Yeah. We're just trying to look at it.
So I got to say this. It's like you guys being in the room in some of these, interactions, you being present, maybe you being, if you will, on deck for these companies, just there to be an observer. It's almost like you're able to observe these conversations, observe even what is being discussed in terms of what these vendors are suggesting, whether it's technology or not. It could be any of these wide array of things that you guys have expertise in. But ultimately, you're on the side of the client, really, really able to discount where things need to be discounted and maybe call bullshit, if you will.
That's right.
And then other times you can double down and go, no, you guys are foolish if you don't walk through this door.
Yeah. I've even told people, I've told active and prospective customers, I've said, let's not let a dollar get in the way of us starting to talk and see if we can help you out. I mean, let's just have some conversations, right? Because I think that if a lot of people that are overwhelmed right now, they're doing too much, their companies are doing too much, their board has entirely pivoted on them, and they don't have the same options on the table to bring the revenue in as they did before COVID, before the demand destruction. What do you do? How do you navigate these waters? We try to help with that. We try to just say, this is the kind of stuff you can do to operate your field. This is the kind of stuff you can do to get your name out there if you're trying to sell things to an oil company, or how you can bring to bear a little bit more of a modern twist. What we also do is we do this research and media content all the time. So essentially, we put a bunch of free stuff up, written and podcast, multiple times a week. And it's trying to say, we are trying to pay attention, not just trying, but actively, very well paying attention to what's going on in the oil markets. Because you have people making very high-level decisions. What are we going to do for our plans? What are we going to do for this? What are we going to do for that? And you have a world that you're not familiar with, right? COVID, demand destruction, all these things that have happened we don't need to go into again. Everybody's very well-versed in this for this industry, what it means. But essentially, if you're going to engage in any kind of 5-year plan, wouldn't it be nice to have people helping you understand what that could look like, at least a piece of it? If they're also engaged into what are the market dynamics of the oil market? What are the geopolitical dynamics of the oil market? What are these other things that are driving? It doesn't give you a crystal ball, but what it does do is it says, okay, you guys understand the industry 30,000 foot. So how does that apply to, I need these 10 wells looked at? It essentially provides a context of understanding what environment are we in and what does it mean for you and your reality for the next handful of years. And so these solutions need to be framed around that understanding context.
So when it comes to people budget, I mean, there's companies that some have big budgets, some maybe not even have a budget at all, but have no choice but to entertain innovation. And then you think about safety and potential solutions that you are probably often suggesting. What is it when it comes to money and effort that it takes to see these companies modernize the way you are helping them do so?
Not nearly as much as you'd think, Warren, and that goes into the next one here. So our essential mission is to modernize things, whether it be in modern professional services, how do you get an engineer that knows what they're talking about and has seen it a time or two to give you a suggestion without having to pay that full salary? How do you get to bear technology, whether it's mobile, cloud? How do you get that stuff? How do you even understand how to get that stuff? Well, we want to modernize all this. I mean, we even want to modernize how you understand the industry, through these OGGN, right? I mean, look at that. There's a lot of things, whether it's podcasts, whether it's cloud solutions, whether it's almost a la carte, I need help from some production guys, right, that have a lot of experience as a group and have seen a lot of things as a group. This is kind of where everything's moving. It's just we're trying to basically leverage modern technology and great practical and effective solutions, right? We actually focus the majority of our stuff is the most stable and overlooked in its production operations. It happens every day. And right now, everybody's being forced to just look at their production. There's no drilling, guys, or there's very little. You got these wells online, you need to make them sing. They may not even have a production person on their entire staff. And they don't have the budget to go hire them either. So they're also being told, you need to go use technology. Well, technology can be anything from a Zoom meeting to a screen share to a podcast, basically these modern platforms, right? To a smartphone, to a tablet, to expanded cell networks out there in the field. So as its essence, that is it right there. You've got well site, you've got cloud, and then you've got the office or somebody working from home.
I've heard you talk about things that are field friendly. It's a term you use, right?
Yep.
What does it mean to you? Someone who's watching or listening and they're just going like, field friendly, how good does it get? Like where are people falling short right now? Companies that could be doing it better, and where you're able to take a look, make an assessment, and then move them into 2020, hopefully 2021, being that we're right around the corner.
Yeah. So again, it comes from a very foundational understanding of a couple of things. One, the industry and what does it need and how does it operate, right? Two, what offerings are out there in technology, whether those be creating software systems that live on the phone in the cloud, whether that be leveraging virtual meetings and cloud file sharings or whatever it is. It's understanding that and then also understanding this geopolitical macro industry situation that even goes beyond the industry. It goes pretty much to everything is going to have to be more digital. Everything is going to have to be more digital, really fast. And so whether it be how do I have meetings remote to help have the teams come up with the right solutions, to how do I get information without going into an SPE conference that isn't being held, to how do I leverage all these modern technology choices out there to help me have better surveillance or look at the wells. It just really can come down to just an honest dialogue. This is what our needs are. How can you help us, Rare Petro? Well, okay, let's explain this. Let's talk about this. Let's unpack this a little bit. Because essentially, while it might seem that we're just doing all these different things, the fact is, it doesn't seem that way. It is that way. And the reason that it's working is because people need help with day-to-day stuff. They need help with how do I get sales? They need help with how do I do all these things in this industry? Well, you need to understand a couple different facets of this industry, and you need to understand also the different facets of what's going on in our culture about technology and the ever-increasing, it's not about doing anything more fancy than trying to tie together what's going on in the world to what do you need and how can we help you find that solution.
That's awesome. Yeah, I keep thinking to myself, like when it comes to the idea of what you guys are doing and then who you're helping, that really there's just no one avenue that people are experiencing with you. You're really going through. There's every appointment that you have is very different, and they always get you. Are you literally touching and viewing all of these opportunities that come your way? Are you actively involved with every client that you onboard?
At this point, yes.
That's good.
At some point, if things continue on their trajectory, I might have to have a deputy that helps with these things. But as long as I can, I will, yes, personally be involved at some level to every single project or potential thing that comes across our plate. I mean, Warren, it's absolutely, totally thrilling, right? I'm gonna tell you, 2020 has not been harsh to Rare Petro, and I know that just is entirely. I mean, some of it's luck. I can't take all the credit, and it's certainly not just me. There's a lot of people that do what they do for Rare Petro and our customers every day that keep us going. But 2020 has not been unfriendly to us. What it's doing is it's actually showing people that some of the ideas we had before COVID, like, hey, instead of handing out something at a trade show on a piece of plastic, why don't you just put that on a phone? Right? That way it's always with them, and now it's a better marketing and communication tool. Hey, instead of you needing to have your production support team, instead of them having to live in Houston, realize that 80% of the work is done on a computer and a phone and the internet. Well, now because of COVID, all of a sudden, it becomes more palatable for us to be in Colorado. And yeah, you come out from time to time, you look at the wells, and it depends on the nature of the work. You might have to have somebody stationed out there all the time. But a lot of work that needs done doesn't need done with somebody physically right in the same room.
Yeah, I would think that all of what's going on is really driving this innovation and fueling your business in a big way. Do you have one more slide for us before we close it out?
Oh, yeah, it's just...
You want to find a juicy one?
The marketing stuff, people would hand these things out at a trade show, service companies. Put it on a phone. You can communicate.
Because you're making applications, right?
Yes,
I mean, you have that capability.
Yes, we do make applications. Then another one, let's say some professional just wants to look at, I just want to project out what this well might make. We have a free cloud-based thing. It's beta, but hey, go use it. Go like it. Don't like it. Whatever. I mean, it's out there.
But they get to test drive it.
They get to test drive it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing in it other than, you just... Pretty much everything we have was born out of some frustration that I had or the other people who work for us or with us have had, right? It's just, it shouldn't be so complicated for me to draw a line on some dots and say how much the well might make and do a P10, P50, P90.
Sure.
Make it easy.
Sure.
And then you can go use the expensive software to do your official reserves report. That's one example. And then pretty much the last example is, we have made a solution for small companies where we have truck drivers in the field that have been filling out forms, and you can see this stuff come in. These don't have to cost a lot of money or be complicated. The problem is we take simple things and we make them complicated.
Yeah.
Just because something can be complex does not mean it has to be complicated.
Yeah.
Simple. To look at your wells with somebody who knows what to look at and say, these 10 have a high fluid level. Let's go attack those first. These might be simple steps. As a nature, the well itself, the field itself might be quite complex, but in essence, all you're trying to do is, I just want to produce a little bit more out of some of these wells. How can I get that? Yeah. I just want to use a smartphone or a tablet or the cell network or the cloud or some sort of Zoom thing to help me get more done without a break in the bank. It's simple concept. How complex it is depends on how far you want to go with it.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, you just have to engage with people who know what they're looking at. Whether it be a potential software solution, whether it be a potential well production problem. You just need to talk to somebody that they've seen these things. They know about what's going on out there, at least more than what you're aware of, and might help steer you in a right direction.
It's really interesting to sit where I am and to learn what I've learned today. It's very much like if you were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, would you want to poll the audience or phone a friend? You would be just the perfect phone call to make, if you will, just to be able to say, hey, what's going on in the industry? What do you think about this opportunity? Is it an opportunity? Am I stepping on a landmine? I mean, there's just so much that I think all of us can appreciate about the idea that somebody is out there talking to so many different businesses, consulting them, trying to help you dodge bullets. Great job. Anthony, this idea of Rare Petro and the complexity of how, I mean, it's a really broad base of services that you're providing. But I think based on what I'm learning and the way you've presented this is a great place for someone to go when they can't just depend on some competitor to tell them what to do. Like there's so many times we're in a position and you're just going like, what is everyone else doing? What are the real ways that I can go from what the old normal was to being bigger and better in the new normal? So thank you so much.
Yep.
If somebody right now is interested in getting the process started with you, learning more about maybe doing a first call with your company, how would they do that?
Okay, that's great, and we'll end up with that. So basically, you can go to our website, rarepetro.com, and then you can go to the Contact tab. You can email me, McDaniels, at rarepetro.com, or you can call or send an email through the Contact tab. We are on LinkedIn as well. I am on LinkedIn as well. You can find us there. And, to really tie it all up, Warren, the best thing that you can ever do in business is create value, right? It's about creating value. And if you create value, then that's what people need. They need you to help them understand this or help them implement that. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's no more complicated than that. And so all we're just trying to do is help provide value. Even if you just want to go subscribe to our podcast or read our periodicals, we're just putting it out there. Yeah. It's generating value for people. We have actually gotten work from that. because it generated value for somebody. We've been paid to do research because they liked the free stuff so much they wanted us to go a level deeper. Okay, so we did. So it's all about creating value. If we can create value by understanding some of the software components and the industry needs, whether it's our solution being sold or not is somewhat irrelevant. It's more about what do you need? What is creating the value? Helping you understand this, helping you implement that, right? Helping you just have more information available. That's what we're really about.
Well, that is great. I want to, great episode, lots to unpack here. I think we did it. I think there is obviously so much more that we'll touch on. In all of our pods, you will find the contact information for our guests. Anthony McDaniels, thank you. And thank you to Churrasco's. We're here at the restaurant. Everyone knows it's my favorite Houston restaurant, and I recommend it to anybody who's never been. And I tell people all the time, this is a steakhouse with a lot of other options, but it's not a Brazilian steakhouse. Check it out. No matter where you are, when you come to Houston, this is what you need to be thinking about. Churrasco's, check it out. So with that, if you have a business and you would like to be on our show, reach out to us. We are looking for companies that have real solutions to real problems. Hey, Anthony McDaniels, Rare Petro, I see the value, and I want to tell you thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thank you, Warren.
And with that, we'll call it a wrap. Catch us on the next show. Thank you.